Okay. So my name is Adam, and my issue was whether the pros outweighed the cons of GMCs. So there's some background to this, like 30 years ago it became possible to do this. 2 years ago, GMC was estimated at $15 billion. The most common function of GMCs is for herbicide and pesticide resistance. Over 60% of processed foods contain GMCs. 12% of all arable land on Earth is used for GMCs, which is basically farmable land. So what's the health certificate? Last Friday, Junior talked about how allergies were possible. So in 2000, a BT corn crop called Starlink, not food for human consumption, right, found its way into the human food system, causing allergy-like symptoms. These weren't actually caused by allergies. Another example would be the soybean-modified trait from a Brazilian tree nut. It increased the protein content, but it was showed that it could cause allergies. The bovine growth hormone is a hormone from cows that can increase the growth rate, but then is linked with breast cancer and diabetes. Glyphosate is an endocrine disruptor used in herbicides, possibly linked to cardiovascular birth defects. There's the method that's randomized, that the gene gun method is not secure enough, that it can land almost anywhere in the genome and it's not controlled. So it could cause something horrible to happen, like the trait acne. And then ultimately there's so many unknowns that we don't know long-term effects. It's not even 30 years, give or take. And we just don't know. So how does this relate to the environment? We have super things like weeds and insects. They're basically more immune, they're more resistant to the things we use, like glyphosate in BT crops. And because of this, they're more used to one-style methods, where they only use one treatment, so it's easier to make things get more environmentally hazardous. Gene flow is the prospect of genes from GMC spreading to wild or non-GMC regions, like in Mexico, where there's the Lincoln oxalotyl, where it might or might not have spread there, whereas GMCs are not allowed in Mexico. And then studying Cornell found that BT maize pollen could kill monarch caterpillars when they fed on milkweed leaves within 4 days. Returning to the study, they found that these numbers in the environment were actually high enough to actually kill them, but still. So what's the good of this? That's something, right? Because the pesticide herbicide resistance, the salability of the crops has increased, allowing for greater yields, which enhances that requirement for a larger base yield. The magazine Biodiversity stated that GMCs would increase the genetic variance across the entire species, which is better for survivability. The future good is that we could use these crops to produce medicines. Newer, better methods of pesticide and herbicide resistance. Example being that crops can produce a warning pheromone insects, so you repel them from the crop instead of just killing them and causing harm. Also, ways of study are studied that promote or help increase the disease resistance of these plants. There's better methods around the way, like talons and CNFs, allow us to specifically choose where they would be cut and not just be randomized. My recommendation is that currently they are not safe for human consumption, that they don't overwhelm the risks. So what we should do is probably start labeling and giving people more choice in the matter. The future prospects is that they're obviously going to go wrong. Like the medicines, like the building, like there's an apple organism called the snow apple, which browns slow. Just matter of life, treatments and such. Questions? I was, based on what I had learned from people that I engaged with, like parents, teachers, family, that they were obviously horrible for us and that they're going bad. So my original assessment that currently they're not safe.
Yeah. And then what research that you found helped you get to where you ended up in your job?
Probably the series of articles that Nature had actually created. They released an article back in 2013, series of articles, like in 2013, that just discussed a whole bunch about like the environmental effects. What could be good about it in the future? What is the cultural impacts, like in Mexico?
And what makes them credible?
Don't know. Didn't really think about that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, but let's see. I'll pick one. Which you talked about? Well, I have one and a half questions, so that's sort of cheating, but I'm going to ask them anyway. So, which series of articles were you referring to and from where did they come? When you said that he said which impacted you, you said, well, there's a series of articles in here. So, where were they from?
They're from Nature, magazine Nature.
Okay, great. And you figured you thought that was a solid source to get.
Yes, because actually where I'd gotten the source of this was actually from a Times article. So they linked me there.
Got it. So you trace that back to that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So that was my half question. So that doesn't really count. Here's my real question. So on each side, in the genetically modified crops good and in genetically modified crops bad, which lens is the strongest argument for each side?
Probably the science and technology is why it's good. Probably health, which I'm not really sure which ones I've actually fallen under. And then also health for their side too, and the environmental impacts.
Okay, so that's for pro and for con, do you think?
Well, for the cons of it, it's definitely health and the environmental impacts, and then for the pros, it's health and science and technology.
As a potential.
Yes.